So this song has to be among the most requested songs for my one-on-one in-person students. Married Life from the movie Up. And it's a waltz. It's a 3/4, which means instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4 like we normally do, we're just gonna have 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So with 3 beats per measure, that affects our reharmonization because it affects how many chords we can cram into a measure. So normally we'd be able to split the measure into half and then have like 1 chord during this half of it and then have another chord during this half of it. That's not going to happen here. We're going to run out of room. So we're going to be able to fit fewer chords per measure. But other than that, it shouldn't really affect our reharmonization too much. Let's go ahead and play this thing the way that it's written. I'm just going to play the chords and have the melody played for me. It would sound something like this. So maybe that right there is enough for you to work on. You just want to try to get those chords with that feel because it feels going to be important. But if you want to move on and reharmonize this thing, well, then you want to go to learnpianolive.com/reharm. And then underneath all of this nonsense here, we get to these spinner wheels. This first one we can spin and do melody-based reharmonizations using the reharm chart and other things. Here we can use baseline reharmonizations. So just thinking about the left hand, what the left hand is doing. What we're going to focus on for this lesson is the chord-based reharmonization, where we pick different chords and see how they fit with the melody. And this one is 2/5 tritone substitutions. Yikes, man. Okay, so couple concepts here. 2/5 means that you're going to play the second chord and the fifth chord within a key. So the key for this song is F. So we're going to play, this would be the 1 chord, because the key of F has B flat in it. Then we just play all of the chords in a row. But we have to watch out for B flats. So it'd be the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, the 7 chord, and then we're back to the 1 chord. Okay, all of those are listed on the last page in the key of F. We could have all of these chord numbers. Here we go. The key of F is right here. The chord numbers are listed right here. So that's the 1 chord up through the 7 chord in the key of F. Okay, so with that in mind, we're talking about a 2/5. A 2/5 just means going from the second chord to the fifth chord. It's always going to be a minor chord. That's the second chord in the key of F. To the 5 chord is going to be a major chord, specifically a dominant chord, a C7 chord, a 7 chord. So G minor to C7 to F would be a 2/5-1, or G minor to C7 would be a 2/5 in the key of F. Hopefully that made some sense. If so, you're ready for the second half of this, which has to do with the tritone substitutions. So we're going to have to first tritone substitute some things. So in order to make a tritone substitution, we have to find a dominant chord. We already said, don't worry, if you're not following me yet, this will make sense in a second. So we need to find a dominant chord. Just a second ago, we said in the key of F, we could find a dominant chord if we found a C, because in the key of F, a C is dominant, or it has a 7 on it. So as long as we can find a C chord in there, we found a dominant chord, because we're in the key of F. And so a C in the key of F is going to be a dominant chord. Wonderful. We've got lots of C's in here. We've got one right here and one right here. So we're going to tritone substitute both of those, which just means that we're going to take that C, and instead of playing a C, we're going to move 6 half steps in either direction. Either this direction up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that would land us on an F sharp, or if we go down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that would also land us on an F sharp. So it doesn't matter if you go up or you go down, you're going to always land on the same note as long as you go 6 half steps away. Cool. So then instead of playing a C chord here, we're going to play an F sharp chord here, which seems like that chord and that chord. There's no way they have anything to do with each other, except if I show you that on a C dominant chord, these two notes right here are the most important notes. So C dominant chord, those are the two most important notes because they are the 3 and the 7 of the C chord. There's the C, 1, 3, 5, 7. The 3 and the 7 are these two notes. Those are called the guide tones. And then guide tones, not guide tones. And then on a F7 chord, this is an F7. This is the 1, the 3, the 5, and this is the 7. So the 1, the 3, and the 7 are these notes on the F sharp 7 chord. These are the 3 and the 7. On a C7 chord, these are the 3 and the 7. That's the same 3 and 7 for both chords. That's pretty much why tritone subs work. So we're gonna play an F sharp chord instead of a C chord. We're gonna play an F sharp 7 chord there. So let's do it on this one at the end first. So this would be an F sharp 7. Now we're ready for that other thing that we did at the beginning. So if you followed any of that, remember that 2-5 thing we said before? Well, this 7 chord right here, that F sharp 7, is acting like a 5 chord because it has that 7 on the end of it. And whenever you have just a 7 on the end of a chord instead of like major 7 or minor 7, then if it just says 7 at the end of it, then that means it's acting like a 5 chord because all of the 5 chords down here are going to be dominant chords. So then the question is, F sharp 7 is the 5 of what? And you're like, I'm not a music theory guy. I don't know. But if you can just find in the 5 column an F sharp, do you see an F sharp anywhere in here? Yes, it's right down here. This F sharp right here would be the 5 of the key of B. That's why that chart is nice for you. You can just go through the 5s and find out what that's the 5 of. F sharp is the 5 of B. In fact, if you went through B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'd find the F sharp sitting right there as the 5. So then we just want to play the 2 into the 5 like we talked about at the beginning. The 2 in the key of B would be a C sharp minor, which would lead into an F sharp 7. C sharp minor to F sharp 7 is a 2-5 of a tritone substitute. Let's go back and say those same exact words again, looking up here. We had a dominant chord. We found this C to be a dominant chord. We tritone subbed it. We took that chord out and put in its place the tritone sub of it, which was F sharp 7. And we talked about why the tritone sub works because the 3 and the 7, the guide tones of the F sharp 7 are the same as the guide tones from a C7. So that's the reason why, but you don't have to know the reason why. You could just play an F sharp 7 instead. Then we said, back to this thing, if we have a tritone substitution, yes, we have a tritone substitution. When you have a tritone substitution, like we have a tritone substitution right here, you can play the 2 into the 5 of that tritone substitution. So the 2 of it would be C sharp minor 7 into F sharp 7. That is a 2-5 on a tritone substitution. In order to find that, we had to start the whole mess with some dominant chord. Then we did the tritone substitution, then we did the 2-5 of it. So we're going to turn this into C sharp minor 7 into F sharp 7, and we'll see how that works out. Now, that being the only different thing in the song, and because it's at the end of the song, this is probably going to sound super weird because it's going to sound like normal Merry Life Up theme song, and then at the end it's going to get all weird and jazzy. That's my prediction. We'll find out what actually happens. Yeah, it sounds pretty weird. Maybe if I didn't play, well, whatever. We need to do some more work before we're ready to determine whether that sounded weird or not. In context, it might be the most normal thing we do. sus4 and sus2 and flat 5 on longer chords. This is great for this song because everything in this song is a longer chord, just meaning that the chord lasts for like a measure or 2 measures. In this case, I think all of them are lasting for like 4 measures. So that's plenty of time. So we can do one of these on probably each of them, a sus4 or a sus2 or a flat 5. Let's just do them in that order. So we'll go sus4, which you don't really need to put sus4 because if you put sus, that just means sus4 already. And sus stands for suspended, not sustained. I'm not sure why those two so frequently get mixed up, but if you have a hard time figuring out which one is which, you're always saying sustained when you mean suspended. That's fine. Everybody apparently does that. But sustained literally means to sustain something. So this is a sustained C, and in music we don't really call it a sustained C. It's just you're just holding the note out longer, but that would be what a sustained C means. A C suspended would be a C chord where we take the middle note, the 3 of the chord, up a half step. That right there, regardless of how long or short we play it, that's a C suspended. That's the chord. C sustained is not really a thing. Okay, cool. So then F sus means an F sus4. So that means that here's our F chord that we were playing before, and instead of just playing this, we're gonna take the 3 of the chord up a half step. Another way to see the 4 is either a half step up from the 3, or probably a better way of seeing it is adding in the note that is a whole step below the 5. So this is the 5 of the chord. If we go in a whole step below the 5 and add that note in, we'd come up with an F suspended, or an F suspended 4, or an F sus4. These all mean the same thing. The reason that's a little bit better, perhaps, is because the 3, while I like the concept of moving the 3 up to the 4, because that's really what's happening, and the suspension is that 3 doesn't exist, and that 4 wants to drop down into the spot of the 3. Right there. If you're playing an F minor, the 4 is a whole step above the 3. So if we were going from a F minor, we would play F suspended into F minor. The 4 and the 3 are a whole step apart. So as long as you know that ahead of time, you feel comfortable with major and minor chords, then just think about raising the 3 up to the 4, because that's what's happening. It's just the distance is either a half step or a whole step, depending on whether it's minor or a major. Unless none of that made sense and you just want to play this stupid song, then forget all of that. So the F suspended is going to be this thing. And we can go back and forth between the F and the F suspended. So that's the sus4. The sus2 is the same exact concept, except we're taking the 3 down to the 2. And it's, in my opinion, a less convincing suspension. Less compelling, probably is a better word. The 4 really wants to move the 3. Whatever. So it's just prettier and more. It's more solid. It could stay there a lot more easily than that thing right there. It doesn't want to stay at all. Anyway, that's just apparently my opinion. But we don't want to do it on the F chord anyway. We want to do it on the G chord because that's the next one. So the G chord is this thing. We want to go sus2. And we do need to put sus2 because sus by itself just means suspended 4. So this thing right here. And then the other thing that we wanted to try was the flat 5. And I like that we're going to put it on the C, actually, because the flat 5 usually has kind of a goofy-ish feel. It's just a C chord with a flat 5. And then we're going to maybe let it resolve into that regular 5. But we'll put C flat 5, and then we'll go to C, and then C flat 5 into C. So this isn't really too reharmonized yet. We haven't changed any of the roots of the chords. We've just suspended some of the color notes on top of it. Okay. Let's try it with the notes. That's kind of like that. So all I did was F suspended to F. Same thing I did on the down below. F sus to F. G sus 2 to G to G sus 2 to G. All right, so they're all now written in. That's actually what I was playing, just the suspension to the not suspended. Okay, so then that's what we did with our longer chords. Harmonic generalization. So this just means we're going to play pretty much random chords. Eventually they won't be random once you get familiar with the sounds, the qualities, the colors, the textures of each of the chords that are inside of a key. But for right now, you can just pick random chords from inside the key of F, because we're in the key of F. So we can play either the, again, these are our chords right here, F, G minor, A minor, B flat, C7, D minor, or E half diminished. These are all of our options here for the key of F. So, that's interesting. So then we could just, kind of throw them in all wherever we want them. So right here, we could throw in like G minor if we wanted to, or here we could throw in a B flat. I'm just making stuff up here. Down here. Now right here, I'm going to not mess with the G section because the G chord is not one that is inside the key. So we got the F. G is supposed to be minor in the key of F because of that B flat right there. So the fact that it goes to that G, if I like start throwing in other chords from the key of F, it's going to make that section sound different because we've temporarily moved outside of the key of F. Then if I throw in a diatonic chord, a chord that's supposed to be in the key, back in right there, it's going to shift us out of that thing that we did that was so cool there. So, yeah, so I think I want to leave all of that G stuff alone and not put in other harmonically generalized, to try to use that term again, other chords in there because it's just going to feel wrong. But we could go from right here. Let's leave that one so that C flat 5 can resolve into the C before we start moving stuff around. We'll take these guys out and throw in, D minor. And then, sure, let's throw in the E half diminished because we never get to use that one. So C. Yeah. So that thing right there, that's just kind of throwing in random chords from the key of F. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Let's do one more. Adding in 2/5s or 6/2/5s or 3/6/2/5s before a chord. So then we need to find some place where we have room to do this. We've kind of filled up all of the spaces. So maybe leading into this G here, we could have a 5 or a 2/5 or a 6/2/5 or a 3/6/2/5. None of that makes any sense. That's fine. So we could try to 6/2/5 or 2/5 or 3/6/2/5 perhaps into this G right here. So all that means is we're going to pretend like G is 1. We're going to pretend like G is 1, like we're in the key of G. So if we go down here And pretend, like just for a second, we're in the key of G right here. We've got the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, and the 7 chord in the key of G, in the key of G. So then we could either go 5-1, which would be a D to a G. That would be a 5-1. Or we could go 2 to 5 to 1. A minor to D to G. That would be a 2-5-1. Or we could go 6-2-5-1, which would be E minor to A minor to D to G. Or we could go 3-6-2-5, which would be B minor to E minor to A minor to D to G. So either 5-1, 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1, or 3-6-2-5-1. The reason for that is that's just working our way through the circle of fifths. If we treat this like it is the 1 chord, then this would be the 5, this would be the 2, this would be the 6, and this would be the 3. So you can just go back as far as we want. We can either do 5-1, or we could go 2-5-1, or we could go 6-2-5-1, or we could go 3-6-2-5-1. All of those are going to be circle of fifth cycle moves leading up to the 1. So we could try out some of those over here. If we get rid of this and this, let's just try a 5-1. Actually, we'll leave the B flat there for right now. We'll just try the D7 to G sus2. So this is just a 5-1, a D into a G, treating the G like it's 1, see what we could use to lead into it. Nothing wrong with that at all. If we went a 2-5-1, that would take out this B flat right here and put in an A minor 7, and that would sound like this. That's interesting. Or we could go 6-2-5, which would be E minor 7, E minor to A minor to D to G sus2. This will be interesting. Part of the reason I don't like it is because this F sus at the beginning, I hate it because it doesn't ever get resolved. Now we've cleaned up all the stuff that it had this cool little effect, and now that we've erased a lot of those chords, I'm not liking that as much. However, to retain the sus feature, we could throw it in over here on this G that we're wanting to hang out on. Not a 4, a sus. There we go. So, and then over here, we could put in a flat 5? Yeah. So we'll try to use up all those concepts on the G, flat 5. So then we're going to have F. This will be interesting. Yeah, and then we're done with that flat 5. We could go, yeah, we'll leave it like that, since we already used the flat 5 on the G. Okay. That would sound like this. would like that. I really like that move at the end, but the notes just don't support it. If it was yeah, if it was that. So maybe I just play them myself. I like the chords a lot, but the melody is not supporting my cool chords that I had. Did we do that thing? Yes, we 3-6-2-5'd it. I don't like them though. I think it's too much. I do like the 5-1. The 2-5-1 was even decent, I think. Let's try that one more time, just make sure I still like the 2-5-1. Yeah, the 2 isn't bad. Yeah, so it's almost like my chord out of the way, and I don't play the whole C sharp minor. I just play kind of the note and apply a little bit of the chord. I think I can get away with that C sharp. I really want to keep it. It's kind of cute. It's my little pet. And then harmonic generalization. We already did that one, I believe. So we'll move on to tritone subdominant chords. All right. Let's do it. So dominant chords, of course, are the ones that are, we already tritone subbed one in this chord, in the song. This one right here is a dominant chord because it is a D7. So if we wanted to, we could also throw in the tritone sub of that. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that'd be an A flat. We already talked about how to do all this stuff. So we could go A flat minor, A flat. I think that's going to sound just fine. What did I do last time? Did I not play any? Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. My chord is a C sharp, and the melody is a C and a D. There's not really getting around that. Maybe I play that. Yeah, it's really super simple C sharp. I really want to keep it. So that's the tritone sub on dominant chords. Dominant, of course, just meaning 7. And then longer chords alternate with the 5. So we can do this. We could do it on the G, but I really like the cool thing we have. That thing. I don't want to wreck that. So maybe on a longer 5 chord, which would be any dominant chord, which we already talked about. The C right here is really a dominant chord. It's a C7. So we could play the 5 of that, alternate with the 5. So play a C and then the 5 of C. And then if it kept on going, which it does, maybe, I don't know. I really like these two. We've come up with so many cool things here. I don't want to delete these ones. The concept would be that we'd go to the 5 of the C. And how do we find the 5 of the C? Yes, exactly the same way we did before. We go to the key of C and we go, if we're in the key of C, the C is 1 and the 5 is G. So it would just alternate between a C and a G and a C and a G and a C and a G. So then we would end up playing C and then a G and then a C and then a G. And that would sound really cool. I think, let me try. sounds all right. Maybe we just we keep the D minor and we throw in this one G. So we're gonna go C and G. I think this is probably all we have room for because there's chords going on all the time in this thing. I'm gonna keep it anyway though. So I don't like the G, the C to the G here. I think because the random chords that we threw in made a nice little walk up from a C to a D to an E to an F. So that C up to D up to E up to F, it just makes a really nice little bass line there. And that's one of the things you want to consider, which is why a third of the reharmonization stuff here is baseline based reharmonizations, in which case you would want to use walk-ups and walk-downs and connect bass movements, for example, would be one of the things. So this kind of destroys that concept of, if you're the bass player, going from a C to a G to an E, D to an E to an F, and just looking at it as a bass player, where you generally want to go in straight lines as much as possible. That's beautiful. That's not as beautiful. Actually, I kind of like it. No. That could work, yeah. So just finding something else in here that would complement the line, either a C and a C and a D and an E and an F, or a C and a C sharp. Something over C sharp would be cool here. So we could put like an A over C sharp right here, and that would sound cool because it makes that bass line move all in one direction. Another place we have that issue is right here, going from the F to an A. Like, this is so obviously dying for a G in here. The G minor 7 maybe. So that we could throw in either one of those, and we'll justify it with this accidental spin of the baseline-based reharmonization for walk-ups and walk-downs that fixes the F to the A minor problem and also fixes the C up to F problem. Hopefully it also sounds good. Okay, so then other things you want to consider, and if we did more stuff on the melody-based reharmonization, then we would want to take into consideration all of the melody lines and all the places where they conflict. Like down here, this is just unavoidable. That we got this really cool move at the end of this, and it just isn't working because the melody cuts right across the root of our chord. It's a mess right there, but I like it, so I'm gonna leave it in. But we would want to take that stuff into consideration, like right here where I'm playing the C chord, and then a C sharp, and then a D, and then an E half diminished. So I'm going to want to emphasize all of the notes here that are being played. So on the C chord, an E, the melody note, was right here. So I might as well emphasize that note by putting it at the top of my chord. And then that's right there. And then this C right here, because I was just on a C sharp, I'm going to want to emphasize this C of my D minor 7 as well, because that's in the melody. And then that B flat, because those notes are actually in the chord, but the way that I played it last time, the way I voiced the chords, wasn't really emphasizing those notes from the melody, and so it didn't really feel like it fit in as much as I feel like if I just retooled some of the chords there, just rearranged some of the notes, I could really emphasize. So maybe I'll just block out those chords this time too instead of doing that thing. Yeah, the end still sounds terrible, but I still like it. And I like what that did with the blocking of the chords. I just want to start on that C because that C, the C of that line is kind of the beginning of that thing. So, boom. And then I can go back into that thing. Yeah. Try to voice it and just change the rhythm around a little bit to be a little bit nicer to the melody that's trying to exist at the same place these chords are. That's kind of cool, actually. I want to play it one more time. That's kind of pretty. I like it. We'll stick with that. So hopefully some ideas in there. Man, we did a lot. We talked about tritones. We talked about diatonic triads, using pretending like we're in keys that we're not in, using 2 5s and 5 1s and 6 2 5 1s and 3 6 2 5 1s. We talked about suspensions of all kinds, 2s and 4s and flat 5s. We talked about dominant chords a lot and what a 7 chord is. And a whole bunch of other stuff. Oh, about connecting bass lines and thinking as a bass player in there and paying attention to the melody, changing your rhythms or your chord structures, your inversions and stuff to kind of fit the melodies in there and stuff. So, man, there's a lot in there. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, taking these concepts, applying them to your own favorite songs, and sending me whatever you come up with. Good luck. Have fun. I love you. Bye.